الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون أما بعد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. Ramadan is the month which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the Quran. It's a guidance for mankind and a criterion to judge truth and falsehood. إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَاهُ فِي اللَّيْلَةِ الْقَدْرِ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, and surely we sent it down in the night of power. In another ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, He mentioned Laylat Mubarak, a blessed night. So Ramadan, again, one of the specialties and the beauties of Ramadan, again, is that the Quran, the book of Allah, the guidance for mankind, came down. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, إِنَّا أَنزَلْنَهُ قُرْآنًا عَرَبِيًّا لَعَلَّكُمْ تَعْقِلُونَ. And we have sent down the Quran in Arabic so that you may understand. Alhamdulillah. And so I want to talk a little bit about the history of the Quran, a summary of the history of the Quran, just to remind us of this what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us and blessed mankind with, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, by His promise, has preserved it to this day. And it will continue to be preserved in the future. But it's important that we have a good understanding or basic understanding of the history of the Quran and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved it. Because you'll be surprised that many people don't know. So I figured this would be a good time to talk about this, the month of the Quran itself, alhamdulillah. So alhamdulillah, we would even be more motivated and be more connected with it, inshallah. Not only during Ramadan, but after Ramadan is past. Because again, remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the Quran down that we may understand it, that we may get guidance from it. So it's not just reading it or reciting it, for its beauty, but again, it's guidance for mankind. And so, alhamdulillah, we learned in our tradition that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the Quran it came down from Lahu Mahfuz. Lahu Mahfuz is the sacred tablet. It's where everything is written. Everything is preserved on that sacred tablet. As the Prophet ﷺ taught us, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created creation, the first thing He created was the divine pen, and He commanded the pen to write. And the pen asked, what shall I write? Write down everything that will take place to the end of time or to the day of judgment. So Lawh Mahfuz is that tablet that everything is written. And on that tablet is what the Quran is written. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bal huwa Quranun Majid fi lawhin mahfuz. You see, that this majestic Quran is written or preserved on Lawh Mahfuz. So from Lawh Mahfuz, in the month of Ramadan, in the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent the whole Quran, the entire Quran, down to the lowest heaven. And this lowest heaven is called Baytul Izzah, the honorable house, or the house of honor. So the whole Quran came down in one night, the night of power, Laylatul Qadr, in the month of Ramadan. All right? And this house of honor was located in the lowest sky of our universe. Okay? The lowest heaven, or the lowest sky. That's how it's described in our traditions, in the hadiths, in the tafsir. And then from there, it came down to the Prophet Muhammad through the angel Jibreel over a period of 23 years, because 23 years was the time length in which the Prophet came with his mission. See? And he taught and he guided the people. Alhamdulillah. All right? We call that the 23 years of his prophetic mission. All right? So that 23 years of his prophetic mission, the Quran came down by the angel Jibreel, exactly as Allah Ta'ala told Jibreel to give it to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right? Word for word, piece by piece, surah by surah, ayat by ayat, according to Allah's instruction to Jibreel to give it to Muhammad. Tell them to say this. Put this verse here. Organize it this way, so forth and so on. So that's how the Quran came down in Arabic. All right? So Rasulullah ﷺ taught it to his companions exactly as it was revealed to him. Many of them memorized it and they wrote it down as well. And several of them were actually chosen or assigned by the Prophet ﷺ to be his personal secretaries to record the revelation. Just to name two of them, Zayd ibn Thabit, one of the young men that the Prophet assigned, and Muawiyah ibn Abu Sufyan. And we know Zayd was a young man. All right? He was smart, he was bright, he was brilliant. In fact, he was so brilliant that the Prophet ﷺ, as a young man, assigned him to go learn the Jewish language. Because once the Prophet ﷺ got to Medina, some of the Jewish tribe was plotting against him. And so Prophet didn't know, so he wanted to know what they were saying. So he sent young Zayd to learn that language. You see, so that the Prophet, alhamdulillah, would know what's going on. And he learned it in about 2 weeks. See, so he was the Prophet's personal secretary that used to record the revelation. It's well known in our tradition. The exact order and exact arrangement of the surahs and the ayats was done by the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As he taught the people, every time revelation came, he would instruct them. Put this verse here, put this surah there. Put this behind that ayah, so forth and so on. So all the whole organization and the arrangement of the Quran was done by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. At the instruction of Jibreel, the angel who brought it down, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's death, within 2 years of the caliphate of Abu Bakr, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with him, the Quran that was scattered in the memory of many thousands of the companions, and all of the writings of the Quran that was written on parchment or whatever material they had during that time, because they didn't have paper, for fear of losing the Quran, all right, because some of the Hufaz, or those that memorized the Quran, was being killed in some of the battles as the Muslims began to spread the dawah, spread Islam. So Umar ibn al-Khattab, out of concern, he came to Abu Bakr, the leader, said, hey, look, we need to gather up all the different parts of the Quran that's in the mind and it's written down and preserved by all of the Muslims and put it in a volume, put it in a copy or a book form, between pages, all right, between, covers, okay? And Abu Bakr, at first he hesitated, but alhamdulillah, he came around to accept Umar's position. And guess who they assigned to head a committee to gather all of the parts of the Quran? Zayd ibn Thabit. See? you know, because again, alhamdulillah, he was the Prophet's secretary. So he knew the Quran. He was one of those who knew the Quran well, okay? So they chose Zayd, the head of committee of other Hufaz and other people who knew the Quran, all right, to go out in the community and gather up everything and to corroborate everybody's recitation to make sure they didn't leave out anything, all right? So how long that task took, you know, again, Allah knows best, but this is what they did. They went out and they gathered up everything. They searched out everybody that knew Quran. They listened to them to make sure they had it right. The order was correct. The ayat was correct. All of that. All right? They verified, you know, from what was written with what was memorized. Okay? So remember, there were many companions that knew the Quran. All right? So they were able to put it all together in one book. After the Prophet, after Abu Bakr passed on, this copy that was with Abu Bakr went to Umar. He became the leader of the Muslims, so it was with him. Okay? And then when he passed, or when he was assassinated, radiallahu anh, then it went to Uthman. All right, so it was with Uthman. And during Uthman's caliphate, there was some confusion in terms of this recitation, because people still had their own personal copies. You see? So what Uthman did, you know, he brought all of these, he gathered, he took the standard copy that he had, all right, to make sure that everybody that was reciting Quran was reciting based upon the copy that he got from that he inherited from Umar and Abu Bakr. You see? And then he made copies of that. You see? So he made copies and made that the standard, and he sent to all of the provinces and the regions of the Islamic State, 6 or 7 copies. So this way everybody that's reciting, they had their own little copy and compiling, they have a standard copy. Because everybody had their own copy. All right? And so, and all the companions agreed to that. You see? And that was the book. That was the Quran that was passed on from generation to generation. Okay? So that's the kind of like some of the a brief history of it. We don't, you know, time will not allow us to go into a whole lot of detail. And a lot has been written on this, but I just want to give you like an overview of how the Quran was collected and how, you know, alhamdulillah, it got to us. Okay? So again, the copy, it was sent to the various regions, all the major regions, all right? And so alhamdulillah, and this is the Quran that we have today. They call it the Uthmanian copy. All right? Remember, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman. All right? Uthman standardized it. He made everybody get rid of all them other copies that they had, and they all agreed. Hey, come on, they agreed. Okay. And we have this one standard, and that would be the Quran that, alhamdulillah, that would go out to the Muslim community. Okay? And so that Quran is still with us today. The exact same arrangement, all of the surahs, all of the ayats, so forth and so on. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Inna nahnu nazzalna dhikra wa inna lahu lahafidhun. So to ensure the fulfillment of this ayah here in Surah 15, verse 9, surely we have sent it down, the dhikr, or the Quran, and we will preserve it. So that was Allah's promise, that he would preserve it. But of course, we know the Quran is preserved where? Lahu mahfuz. Right? But Allah wanted to preserve for us here. You know, Allah has knowledge of all things. So Allah is so with Allah is the mother of the book, Kitab, or Lahu mahfuz. Okay, so it can never be, you know, lost. But for us, the humans, the servants of Allah, mankind, to make sure they have the authentic book that Allah sent down to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he promised to preserve it. All right? So when we reflect upon it, and we look at the history, subhanallah, and how Allah chose to preserve the Quran for us here on earth, mankind, the Muslim, how Allah chose to preserve it through us memorizing it. See? From one generation to the next, generation after generation after generation. You know? So from that time, over 1,400 years, you know, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you know, the means of preserving the Quran for us, you know what I'm saying, is memorizing it. I I mean, writing it down, but mostly memorization. And that's why we've literally, over 1,400 years, probably had, like maybe hundreds of millions of men and women, believers, who memorized the whole Quran, right on up to today. And so wherever you go, from north to the south, from the east to the west, the Muslims are reciting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's book. Muslims have been able to preserve it. Allah has used man to preserve it, the Muslims to preserve it. You see, so if you recite Fatiha in the east, the people in the west can recite the same Fatiha. No discrepancy. Surah Al-Baqarah, all of the surahs of God recited the same wherever you go. That's how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserved it. You see? And so we're blessed. Allah preserved the revelation. Unlike other religions and other dispensations, before Islam, their book was not preserved, you see. And people can't give you an account of how your Quran is true. How your Quran is the same Quran that the Prophet Muhammad, even if they didn't believe in it, how do you know it's the same Quran, you see what I'm saying, that the Prophet Muhammad taught, you see? See? Because again, we have preserved it. And so if you take your Quran, the Arabic, not the English translation, all right, the English translation of the meaning or the meaning of the Quran that's translated in other languages, you see, the Quran in Arabic, that's why I mentioned that verse, what Allah said, surely, Allah sent it down, He sent it down as an Arabic Quran, He said, that you may understand, okay? So it came in Arabic, you see. So when you take the Arabic Quran, the Arabic Mus'haf, all right, that we have today, and you compare it to the Uthmanian, copy of the Quran, it's still the same. You see, that's the original. Came from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala again has blessed us, alhamdulillah. All right, and so the Quran has come to us, from generation to generation. Again, this preservation is for us here, on the planet, in this life, in this world here. So for our what? For our guidance, all right? And it's important for us to understand that. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, alhamdulillah, to help us to appreciate, see, to appreciate, the guidance He has given us, and given us a pure book, with guidance, and so that we can regulate our lives and we can worship Him, alhamdulillah, in a way that is pleasing to Him. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala khairil mursaleen, Muhammadin Nabi Ummi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. And remember, again, this is the month of Ramadan. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said again, Ramadan is the month which the Quran came down as guidance for man. Hudan lin-nas. Hudan lin-nas. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That this is the book, and it is guidance for those who fear Allah. You see? So the Quran is for guidance. It's not just a recitation. You see? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the English translation, and those to whom we have given the book, they tilawati, they recite it or they read it as it should be recited or read. Okay? They are the ones that believe therein. Surah Al-Baqarah, verse 12. All right. The meaning of tilawat, or the reciting or the reading of the Quran in this ayah, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, they interpreted that to mean 5 things. To recite the book of Allah, those who believe, like you and me and all of the Muslims, those of us who claim to believe in Allah and believe in the Prophet and believe in the Quran. Right? In order to read the Quran as you're supposed to read it, the companions of the Prophet, they understood it. They understood it to be 5 things. Right? To recite it, like you recited. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Okay. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina sirata al-mustaqim. صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. Okay, so to recite it, yes. And so it's the month of Ramadan. And normally, you know, if it wasn't for the crisis that we're in today, and if it wasn't for us being locked down, then we'd be in the masjid, following the imams who are reciting the Quran, the whole Quran during the month of Ramadan. All right? So we don't have that now, okay? So we have to recite it. Some imams are reciting it virtually, online, I guess, similar to what I'm doing here, okay? And reciting it, during the month of Ramadan, all right? But again, reciting the Quran, that's one level of fulfilling the commandment of reciting the Quran, like you're supposed to recite it. To recite it. Because to recite it is worship. Just to recite it to worship, okay? All right? Number two, to memorize it. To recite it, to memorize it. You have to memorize some Quran, to worship, right? Your salah, right? Alhamdulillah. And this is a mercy from Allah. Even when you think about it, we think about all those people who are hafiz of Quran, those who have preserved the Quran, through memorizing the whole of it, don't cut yourself short. See? Just the regular layman, the regular person who's not a scholar, who's not a hafiz of Quran, but you have made a contribution yourself in preserving the Quran. By your memorizing enough, where you can lead the salah. You can make prayers, subhanAllah. Yeah? So your recitation of the Quran, it doesn't matter how much you know, when you compare that with the recitation of others, subhanAllah is the same. And so the Quran has been preserved by the Muslim Ummah, alhamdulillah. Right? So to recite it, to memorize it, to understand it, as we said, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, surely we have sent it down in Arabic that you may understand. You see? All right? So that's the third thing, all right? In order for us to fulfill that commandment. And number 4, to contemplate it, to think about it. So Allah wants you to, when you read the Quran, Allah wants you to, When Allah talks about the hellfire, Allah wants you to reflect. When Allah talks about His punishment, and He wants you to, when Allah talks about the cosmos, or the universe, and the sun and the moon, and all of these things are a reflection of His majesty and His glory, and who He is, and that He is the creator. You see, so when you look at these things, and you contemplate these things, you will reflect, and that's supposed to bring you close to Allah. It's supposed to bring you to another level of realization. You'll be surprised, a lot of people don't realize that to contemplate and to reflect on the Quran is an ibadah that we forgot. You see? To contemplate, to think, what does Allah mean? SubhanAllah, this is powerful, this is awesome here. These verses, or you read a story, or you read a parable, whatever it may be. You see? Again, to contemplate, all right? And to draw from it, draw lessons, from pondering over it, and thinking about it, and reflecting upon it. To draw lessons. What lesson is in this for me? You see? Because remember, the ultimate objective is to guide you. You see? So it's not just random talk. Allah don't just give you random. No. It's guided. Huda lil muttaqin. Okay? And the final issue of the fifth one is to act upon it. Okay? All right, to act upon it. Again, and this is what all of the companions and even the Tabi'een explained. Thus, without these 5 things, okay, reciting, memorizing, understanding, contemplating, and acting, living it, then one has not fulfilled this mandate of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Again, those to whom we have given the book, they recite it or reason as it should be read. And they are the ones that believe they have to, again, fulfill those 5 things. And that's how the companions understood it, and that's how they practiced it, and that's how the Tabi'een practiced it. Again, brothers and sisters, this is the month of Ramadan. It's an opportunity for us to reconnect with the Quran. So I felt compelled today to talk a little bit about that history. Hopefully you'll be able to appreciate it. Alhamdulillah, you'll be able to internalize and reflect. Alhamdulillah, and realize what, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us with. Remember the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he used to review the Quran once a year. He used to review the Quran once a year. He'd go over it once a year. With Jibreel would come review the Quran when they go over ayah by everything that Jibril revealed to the Prophet, as Allah gave it, told him to. Alhamdulillah, he went over it with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in the last year of his life, we learned from the hadith that the Prophet, that Jibril went over the Quran with the Prophet twice. All right? So that's why we have that tradition. It's been our tradition since that time, to connect with the Quran. In Ramadan, Ramadan is so special, for us reading Quran, studying the Quran. And no doubt all of us are involved on some level of reading and studying the Quran in Ramadan, everybody. When we read some of the accounts of some of the early Muslims, when Ramadan came, they stopped doing everything and dedicated the whole Ramadan to reading Quran, reading and studying the Quran. During the day and during the night. In the Taraweeh or the night prayer or by themselves, it didn't matter. They went through the Quran. Some of them went through the Quran, they finished the Quran in 3 days, 7 days, Some finished the Quran in, twice. Twice in 1 day. Imam Abu Hanifa. How can someone do that? Wow, Imam Shafi. Some of the great names, in our ummah, who, when Ramadan came, that's what they did, some of the great scholars like Imam Malik, when Ramadan came, he stopped teaching hadith. You see? He put it aside, he just jumped into the Quran. You see? All right? And so you hear, like Imam Zuhri said, when Ramadan came, this is the time to read the Quran and feed the poor. You see? They dedicated themselves to reading the Quran, studying the Quran, and taking care of the poor. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. See? And so, alhamdulillah, we have this example in our history, alhamdulillah. People were connected with the book of Allah. See? Remember, alhamdulillah, Ramadan is going to be over soon, you see. And so we're connecting with the Quran now, but when Ramadan is over, are we going to continue? Keep in mind, alhamdulillah, Allah bless you to develop a good habit. If you was not reading the Quran regular before Ramadan, at least for these 30 days, while we're fasting, you have reconnected. And develop a good habit of being consistent with reading the book. Hopefully, inshallah, you'll continue when Ramadan is over. Again. So in that same narration where it said that, Jibril would come and review the Quran with the Prophet ﷺ, and also mentions in closing that the Prophet ﷺ was the most generous of all people. The most generous of all people. And in the month of Ramadan, he was even more generous. He was more generous, okay? And his generosity was like the wind, constantly blowing. So he was given. It kind of like reminds you of that hadith or that saying of the Prophet, peace be upon him, when he spoke about the 7 categories of people on the day of judgment, who will be shaded by Allah, when there will be no shade. And one of those categories of people they'll have the shade of Allah as a man or a woman that just gave so much with one hand that the other hand didn't know what they were doing. They were just giving. Think about that, okay? So the Prophet ﷺ set the example for us and whatnot. And these people, so those who give and spend in the month of Ramadan, alhamdulillah, are blessed people. And so we want to close by encouraging you, encouraging everybody to spend, to give. Don't hold back, spend fi sabilillah, Again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet ﷺ said that a person will be under the shade of their charity. Your donations is badly needed for our Masjid. We have a lot of things we have to do, alhamdulillah. We're feeding the people now, and so we're still collecting money. And we want to thank all of those brothers and sisters and those people who have been donated so far. Alhamdulillah, people have been generous, alhamdulillah. But we don't want you to stop. We want you to be like that man, that person that the Prophet ﷺ described in the hadith, gave so much, that the right hand didn't know what the left hand was doing. They didn't think. They just gave. You see. So we want you to dig in your pockets, in your wallets and your checkbooks and your debit card. You see what I'm saying? I'm just gonna send. Just send the money, to our Masjid, and to help us continue the work that we have to do in finishing some of the projects that we're going to be doing. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make the Quran dear to us. And may Allah allow us to act upon it and to make us from the people of the Quran and those close to him. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy and forgiveness and forgive us all of our sins and shortcomings. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our deeds in this blessed and noble month of Ramadan. Ameen. Inna Allah wa malaikatu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuhalladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun wa salamun ala al-mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.